It says we're live.
No, not just setting it up.
Okay, let me know when.
Okay, right now.
Okay, thank you. Everyone ready? Okay, so welcome to the Public Works and Environmental Services Committee meeting held Tuesday, January the 19th at 6:02 p.m. I'd like to first acknowledge that we're meeting on the territory of the Subasit First Nations, and we thank them for allowing us to do that. And so I would like to call our meeting to order. Any introduction of late items? And we did get an email earlier for request for funding approval, and the CAO would like it to be put under reports F for request for funding. Was there any other additions?
None, no.
And so I'm looking for approval of the agenda with the added. Councillor Austin, seconded by Mayor Day. All in favor? Okay, pass. So business arising in any unfinished business is the virtual water treatment plant tour.
That's still on hold. It'll probably be revisited again at the next meeting.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Ongoing items being addressed, parking limit and enforcement of same. I noticed will a report come back? I noticed I got something from the chamber today that they're doing a survey to do with parking in the downtown.
That's right.
So this will all come back then as a report?
As a report, the superintendent's working on that right now.
Yeah.
So as soon as it's ready, we will bring it back to you.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone want to ask on that? No? So we have no delegations and we have no correspondence. And I don't know whether we have any verbal comments.
Yes, I do have a verbal comment from Kara Smith. She wasn't happy with the organics waste tonnage that's down on the reports. She'd rather see a year-to-date number rather than just for a couple of months. So that's the comment she made.
Okay. Councillor McGonigal?
And in all fairness, going forward, we had just asked for some numbers. So if we can put those numbers on occasionally in the Public Works, that will show the difference between waste tonnage and organic tonnage, and we can address that through publicity and trying to get more people on board with organics. I think the intent was just to show how many do participate.
Yes. Okay. So then we'll go on to reports. So the first report is from our Superintendent of Public Works, and it's regarding his Public Works report for December of 2020. If Jazz is available to speak.
Yeah, I'll let him take over.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Yeah, so you guys have the reports there. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer them for you.
I don't see lots of hands going up. Oh. No, maybe you can just give us a rundown for people who aren't following along at home or not reading it.
Good. So Public Works.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we've encountered more water leaks. There was a couple of main water leaks and services. That's an ongoing issue throughout the town. Flushing sanitary mains is completed. Catch basins and culvert inlets, outlet, that program is complete, but that's an ongoing maintenance issue that we keep on doing, especially this time of the year. Make sure all storm systems are functioning properly. Potholes, same thing this time of the year. We're patching continuously. We're experiencing potholes throughout the town, but we try to stay on top of it as much as possible. A couple of the sanitary pump stations, we got ongoing maintenance on them, keep them updated. Columbarium, the sign has arrived, it's installed. It looks great, in my opinion anyways. Anybody around, they should take a drive by and have a look at it. And raw water pump station, the electrical contractor has advised us that all the materials, he's got them now. And hopefully he'll be starting soon to complete that work to meet BC Hydro upgrades. The boomsticks around the raw water, we're still waiting on the contractor to give us a date when he can start on that. Danger tree removal still ongoing. We still have a few large trees we need to remove. Actually, some of these are now to protect more infrastructure of ours, especially a couple of the pump stations. We've got very large trees around them that are not very healthy. We have to remove them so they don't come down and damage our pump stations. Town's equipment is all ready to go for snow removal. It's all good. And the town crews have been doing ongoing road sweeping and cleaning. Whenever they have some free time, they go out and sweep the streets. Planning for spring and summer projects is underway. We've got a number of projects we'd like to do this year, as long as funding is available. And again, just a reminder to all the residents to keep the sidewalks, boulevards adjacent to their properties free of brush, weeds, cleaning the sidewalks, any refuge. We need the sidewalks cleaned around the, there's a lot of sidewalks that it's very narrow now and people can't even walk on them properly. So really need the property owners to try to maintain their shrubs around their properties.
A question from Councillor Sandu.
Just as we're anticipating a bit of snow, I was just wondering if we should give a message out tonight, just the responsibility of our business people, owners and residents, just as a reminder what their responsibility is on sidewalks.
Yeah, sidewalks, it's the property owners in front of your property, residential and businesses, up to the landlords to try to keep their sidewalks clean as possible at all times from snow. Very much appreciated.
Mayor Day.
Thank you very much. And thank you for staying on top of that. I've seen some hedges being trimmed and that's awesome. That's one of the most often heard complaints is not being able to get down certain sidewalks. So thank you very much. And thank you to the residents who are doing that.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Just also wanted to comment on the Rivers Edge Memorial Park sign. It looks awesome. As you probably most of you know, I get to stare at it every morning. But the other observation I'd like to make, since that park has been cleaned up and the canopy has been lifted so everybody can see in and see out, that on any given day when it's not raining or snowing out, that parking lot is full of bikers and hikers and stuff. So the activities previous to the cleanup of that park were not so healthy, but now it's become, now people are parking on the street at that park so they can embark on their hikes and walks with their children and dogs. So it's quite interesting to watch how since the cleanup that the uses there has gone way up. Thank you.
Councillor Sandu.
I've noticed on social media that there's people that post comments regarding issues like hedges, different things, sidewalks and that. And I responded the other day by just saying to contact Public Works and put the phone number on my posts. Like, is that something that Public Works would have us do is just tell them to contact Public Works Department, or like through council and then to you, or is there a preference so that we're all on board?
Yeah, it's really the responsibility of each individual to look after their hedges and stuff. I guess if they do have a question about something, they can call Public Works, but it is each individual property owners to maintain their hedges. Yeah, keep the sidewalks clean in front of their homes.
Did that answer your question?
No?
So do you want them contacting, like, do you want people that are posting this information on social media to contact Public Works directly with an address? And then, so as a council, if we see these things, then we either say, okay, we've got it, we'll pass it forward to Public Works, or this is a phone number, contact them and you'll.
Yeah, just have them call Public Works. We'll deal with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or would the bylaw officer be another avenue?
That would be the other thing. Call the main office. That might be better. And then bylaw can look after it.
Okay.
That's who should enforce it rather than Public Works.
Okay. Councillor McGonigal?
Yeah, I think it's dependent on what the topic is. I know a number of the topics were pertaining to safety on the sidewalks, for instance. That wouldn't be, unless it's intrusive with brush or shrubs, that would be bylaw enforcement. If it's a tripping hazard, et cetera, that would be directed to Public Works. So I think it's dependent on what the topic is within the social media. I think at all times you should phone the appropriate person. Nothing, unfortunately, gets solved on Facebook or social media without contacting the appropriate authorities. And by putting that phone number out there, at least they have that access for those problematic complaints that do come forward on social media. And I would encourage anyone that does see something that impedes pedestrian progress on sidewalks, et cetera, to contact the appropriate authorities so that we know as well. We don't go cruising Facebook to try to find problems within the town. I think it's appropriate to phone the proper division, whether it's Public Works for sidewalks, potholes, water leaks, and bylaw enforcement for the other issues, whether it be problem dogs or hedges or chartles, etc. So please phone the appropriate division within the town, and we'll do our best to deal with it.
Yeah.
Thanks. So with that, we will move on then to your report about the water treatment plant update.
Okay, the water treatment plant, again, it's operating as it's supposed to. And we've put some web sites on there if anybody wants to go onto them and have a look. What we're reporting to Island Health, our requirements, and what's posted monthly, it's all on there, as well as the report that our water operator does up monthly and provides it to everybody online too. Other than that, yeah, everything's working properly.
Just a question, Jazz. I was a little bit interested. So if we had not had our water plant up and running with the amount of rain that we had, we would have been on boil water advisories.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the turbidity in the lake was high with all the heavy rain. We would have been on boil water, yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
So the water treatment plant is working properly to keep the turbidity down, so we don't have to boil water.
Councillor McGonigal?
I think it's interesting that it was almost a year to the day where we saw a substantial rain event from the year before, which did put us in a long boil water advisory as mandated by Island Health. So I'm excited that the plant is working as it was designed.
Yeah.
And we're just ironing out some little bugs within the system.
Yeah.
I think we can all be encouraged by the performance during that rain event.
Thank you. Okay, so no one else, we will move on then to the December 2020 Operations Performance Report.
Is that, you want to do that one, Joe? Okay, Joe's going to deal with that one.
Okay.
Back. This is a report that we submit to Island Health on a monthly basis. Council gets to see it also. And just I know there's one item that I think council may be interested in is the level of the aluminum. And we have been in touch with Island Health on that issue. And they've asked us to monitor it a little closely, to do tests on the raw water, just to make sure that that is not out of sync. And in the meantime, we're doing testing and we're, trying to do the best we can to keep the aluminum levels down. And I think that's the only thing. Everything else is working fine.
Good.
And when we had the heavy rains, I think at one point we were at 4, the raw water's at 4 NTUs, but we were able to keep the NTU at the fully treated at, I think it was 0.03.
Good. Councillor McGonigal?
I think it'll be interesting to get the results on the testing of the raw water for all mineral contents, whether that's the route we're going. We know that aluminum is a natural occurring element within the system and could be impacting those reading numbers. Taking into consideration that we're all probably level 1 water operators now with all the information that we've accumulated over the past year. Using alum as a coagulant and trying to get the levels to a sustainable level without going over the operating permit is one of those issues that we are trying to iron out. So with the monitoring of the raw water and what numbers they are, I think that'll give us an indication of where the alum has to be within that and for the coagulation and the flocculation.
Thank you.
And if I may, we're only testing those, the requirements that's stipulated under the operating permit. So I'm not sure if you want to go beyond that.
Just to follow up, I think it would be important to know what the aluminum levels are in the raw source,
Yes.
just as an indicator. If that's not within the operating permit, which it isn't, just to get an indication of what that raw sample is, maybe something.
Yeah, and it may be affecting the treated water, so that's why we need to do that.
Thank you. Okay, so we are going to Director of Finance. And that, unless you'd like to speak to it, and it's the organic.
This is just for information. It was prepared in response to council wanting additional information on the organics and waste.
So clarification, I found that really interesting watching it today. So that's quite a drastic difference between 2019 and 2020. And so from what I think I'm seeing is that our waste has gone down and our organics have gone down.
I will let the Director of Finance speak to that.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, my apologies. I think the graph, the copies that you might have might not be in color. Are they black and white or color?
There's color on them.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So the top 2 lines shows the garbage for 2019 compared to 2020 tonnages. And the bottom 2 lines are the organics collection. What we didn't have was the number for December of 2020, so the last month looks a little bit skewed there. But basically, we're collecting about half as much as in organics as we are garbage, which was interesting to note. So I think there's room for improvement there.
Has it actually gone down though since implementation, or it's just never gotten to a high amount of
Our
organic?
waste collection, our waste collection in total has gone down because we're splitting it between, and anything that we can move from garbage to organics is saving us in tipping costs. So the volume, I would say, I'd have to look at the exact numbers. I would say the volume is probably fairly consistent. It's just that some of it's been moved since 2014 into organics. And the volume of organics does look like in 2020, and I don't know if that's because of COVID, does appear to be higher than it was in 2019. So what we picked up in tonnage for 2020 is higher than 19, which is a good sign.
I think I did speak to a resident, and she was saying that normally she would always go out to the restaurants to eat. And she said that once COVID came along, she said, I actually spent most of my time at home cooking. And so that might be why we're seeing more of the organics now, with people being at home more.
And also there's more garbage because I think because of COVID, people are at home more and they're cleaning out more and cleaning out their house and that kind of thing. So I just provided 2 years. We could actually look at this. We have numbers dating back to 2014. I wasn't really sure what council was looking for. So, and again, this table needs to be corrected once we have the December numbers, because right now we're using guesstimates. We didn't have them yet from the CBRD.
I think the interesting part would be the collection of organics to see whether it's going down in use since implementation or whether it's steadily climbing. That would be the interesting, especially if in the fall we might want to suspend that activity. It would be good to see.
Yeah, we can definitely bring back just a chart showing historically since we started the organics program, how it's done from 2015 to now. That would be pretty easy to do without the garbage collection. Then you can see what it's doing. That being said, it's a little difficult to tell just with COVID year as, you know, is it a comparable year or not? And even if we go to 2 weeks collection, we should still be collecting the same amount of organics. It's just being collected less often.
Yes. Councillor McGonigal, you had a question?
Thank you. Just a couple of comments. I think you'll see the waste from 2020 that went up during the summertime. That was an influx of tourists and travelers and quite a substantial amount within Saywell Park, etc., being picked up by our public works and put through the waste stream that way. Organics on the graph that I read has gone up in 2020, but not to the amount that is anecdotal of 40% diversion of kitchen organics. When you look at the increase in the tipping fees at Binks Creek this year from $140 a ton to $148 a ton for waste, organics are $112 a ton. So every ton that we can divert from the waste stream that is exported to Rabanco saves us $36 a ton. And that will help on the bottom line of the waste removal portion within Public Works. So the more we can divert within the organics program and the bigger the buy-in we get from that, the better it is for the bottom line and for the dollars that are paid by those that utilize this service. Taking into account that those people that still need a larger receptacle, that is available for purchase at the town office. If you feel that you need a larger can, 120 liter, I believe it is, instead of 80, those can be purchased. And there is an increased cost for that collection as well. But I don't want to encourage more waste pickup. I want to encourage more people to buy into the organics program. On any given pickup day, you can drive around and notice that there is not 70% buy-in within the organics program, unfortunately. And I think if we get to that level, we can show a larger diversion and even look at GHG reductions for those who feel that's important as well.
So one quick question to our finance. Do we get a report on how much is collected from the recycling program? Because that's another interesting thing, is wondering how many people actually recycle and how many are throwing it into the waste system, because that's also being charged at the tonnage too.
Some months we do, it's not as regular, like we get this information every month. The recycling information is not as regular, so sometimes we're missing months and then it's hard to do analytics and comparables for that.
Yeah, I know I have spoken to some people and they say that they just throw everything in the garbage, which is unfortunate that they don't take advantage of the recycling and the organic system. Councillor Austin, you had a question?
Well, yeah, I just want to talk about the organics a little bit. We have a lot of gardeners in this town. I'm one of them. I have 3 composters, so I don't put very much out in my organics, just the things you can't put in your compost. So when we say a lot of people aren't doing it, some of them are people that do have composters. So I just want to say we can't expect every household to be exactly the same. On our street, I notice everybody seems to recycle, and they usually have too much out. So that's really good. And people are doing a much better job with using the proper containers for their recycling. So I think at least on our street that I see every week, it seems to be doing well.
Good. Anyone have any more questions or comments? Okay, thank you. So now we are going to go on to your capital budget report for 2021, please.
Okay, so this is the Public Works capital budget. We've got the equipment purchases that they've got budgeted for 21, sorry. And the total cost of those equipment purchases is $420,000. All that money is coming from the reserve funds, which is why we show it as 0. And then we've got the active transportation plan that's happening now. There's $20,000 to chip seal Lakeview Park Road, Cottonwood Street storm repairs. There's paving in there for $200,000, sidewalks for $60,000, a small tools budget of $5,000. We have a grant to do the stormwater, a planning grant to do the stormwater for $15,000. $10,000 is the grant. Transit shelters we're looking at in conjunction with the CVRD, and that'll be $25,000. So the total capital budget there is $450,000, with $35,000 of that coming from grants.
So question, what transit shelters?
I'm going to let the superintendent, or is it the CAO, get into the
Sure.
details, because they'd be
Thank
better at it. Thank you.
I'm not sure if you noticed that the transit shelter at the fire hall has to be relocated because they built a building there to house their piece of equipment.
Mhm.
So we are looking at relocating that to across from the Country Grocer into our property that's across from Country Grocer. So we're looking at a pullout, hoping to put it there so the buses can go in, unload and load people. And so that way the highway is left open and free for traffic to go through. Currently, people come behind and have to stop and wait. And the other issue is we're looking at the transit shelter across by Fields. We're looking at replacing that. It'll be a brand new double wide shelter. And I will let the superintendent speak to it because he's been working with the CVRD on that issue, those 2 issues. So
Thank you.
maybe you can take over.
Yeah, so the two shelters we're working on, like Joe says, one's beside the field. We're gonna remove the old wooden structure there. We've had a number of complaints where people can't get their scooters or baby buggies through or whatever. So we're gonna remove that one and put a new one in, and it will be off the sidewalk, same level, but we'll build it off the sidewalk so it won't impede the sidewalk part of it. And it's BC Transit's willing to work with us on that. It'll be between BC Transit, Town of Lake Cowichan, and CBRD. Majority BC Transit picking up the costs on that one, and then like on the other one, across from the Country Grocer, where the old gas station was, we're hoping to relocate that one, and that we can make that quite a nice pull out for the buses. It's going to take a bit more work and cost, but we're still working on that one with CBRD. Hopefully we can make that one work.
Good. Councillor Sandhu?
Just a question on one of the line items with gravel truck, budget of 20,000.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's for repairs on a gravel truck, where we need to, the gravel box is all rusted out. We need to replace it.
Okay.
Councillor McGonigal?
So just going to the paving program, if the Director of Finance is available and listening.
She's listening, yeah.
The budget is for $200,000. And is there unexpended dollars from last year's paving program that will be implemented into this year's? Or is that direction of council?
It's gone into surplus, so we're rebudgeting.
It's gone into surplus, and it's getting rebudgeted right now. It's in the works.
So I think the intent was to incorporate a contingency in the paving program. Any unexpended portions within the paving program would go into paving and not surplus, similar to the parks contingency, etc. I'm just wondering if maybe I was mistaken, or
I believe it was talked about, but never approved or passed. Is that correct? Yeah.
okay. Having heard that, I think it's important that any unexpended portion this year be put into a contingency for continuation instead of surplus. Then if we expend $150,000, for instance, in this year's paving program with projects that we approve, that $50,000 could be implemented into a paving contingency for future years instead of into surplus. That was the intent, I thought, of the discussion. If it didn't go through a resolution, etc., that's fine. But I think that was my intent, to have a contingency to utilize should we need to expend more.
Yeah. Well, I'll let Mayor and Council work on that.
Mayor Day?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Councilor McGonigal, for bringing that up. I think that the next finance and admin, that's definitely a conversation we should have before we approve any finances for the upcoming year, for sure. So, so direction to staff to have that included on the finance admin agenda if they could, so we can have a good council discussion about it that evening. Because I'd like to see that come to a resolution myself as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the memo we got earlier today. If
Madam Chair, if I may, I'm going to
Yeah.
have to recuse myself from one of these discussions. So I will put myself on mute. I will take myself off video. If someone can text me when you're done, then I will know to rejoin the meeting. So I'm going to stop my video, stop my audio, and remove myself from this discussion, as my grandson was one of the presenters for the Stone Park capital upgrade, and I don't want to be seen as being an influence in that decision.
Thank you. So maybe Counselor Sandu, if you could text Counselor McGonigal when he can come back. Thank you. So is the request coming from the superintendent, or was our CAO going to speak on this one?
I'll speak on it. I've been working on this project.
Speak away.
We've identified that was one of the parks that needed some upgrades, the fencing and everything. So what we're planning on is redoing the fence around the whole perimeter. Right now, it only has a fence around 3/4 of it, and it's in very poor shape, falling apart. We'll refence it so it's totally closed in. That'll prevent any dogs or animals getting in there and making a mess of it. And then we'd like to redo the hockey box or basketball court or whatever you want to call it. It no longer exists. It fell apart many years ago, and it's nothing there except the asphalt. So we want to build a new hockey box around there.
Perfect. Yeah, just a side note too, I went by the one down at Cottonwood, and there were 7 young guys out there playing hockey. So it's nice to see now that it's been renovated, there is a use for our youth. So thank you. So on this one here, we have to look for, or did you want to speak about the other one? Or do you want to do these individually?
It's totally up to you. Yeah, well, let's talk about, finish this one off, and then we'll move to the next one.
Okay, so we are looking then, I guess we need to make a motion then to expend this amount. So I'm looking for someone to make a motion for Stone Park upgrades to include installation of a new chain link fence around the whole perimeter of the park and rebuilding of the sports box. And the funding requested is $45,000. So we need first by our Counselor Austin, and we need a seconder. Counselor Sandu, anyone with any questions? Discussion? Mayor Day?
Yes, just for clarification, this is just to move that this number be included in the capital funding request for 2021. Is that correct? Okay.
That's correct.
So just to be clear, so when it comes to after all the capital is been inserted into the budget, we do have opportunities to make changes before we approve the budget. So just a reminder to everybody about that. Thank you.
Okay. So do we have to call a question then? To approve this? Okay.
Yes.
So can I please call the question? All in favor? Approved. And now do we bring back in Counselor McGonigal for the next one?
Yeah, he might as well be brought back in for the next one. It's a inflow and infiltrate sewer project.
Okay, if you want to go ahead and talk on this one about Arbutus Avenue from Willow to Alder. There's a sanitary line inflow and infiltration repair. So if you would like to speak on that, your funding request is for engineering and design work of $15,000.
Yeah, so this one, it's been a ongoing issue for a number of years. It's an old sanitary line that was installed when the 100 houses was originally built, old clay tile line, and we continuously are having blockages on it because roots are coming into the line. There's a lot of water infiltration. Every joint is leaking. We had it cameraed last month. Every joint is leaking, and there's numerous places where there's roots coming in and blocking the line. It's plugged a number of times, and we've had it backing up into homes, I believe, a couple times in the past. So we'd like to get that one repaired this year. So if we can get going on the engineering on it, and so as soon as possible, we'd like to get that piece of line repaired. Replaced, actually, what it would be.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Sandhu?
I was just going to move the motion. I was just going to motion the approval of this project for $15,000.
Do we have a seconder? Mayor Day? Any discussion?
I have a question.
Counselor McGonigal?
I think Counselor Sandhu had a follow-up question. I'll let her go first.
Aw. So is this stuff to wait for us to approve the budget for 2021, or is this a request you want ahead of time to start the work?
I'm gonna let Joel talk on that. He's more knowledgeable on that stuff than me.
If I may, the reasons for these two items being on the agenda is that way those funds are tied up. So they would be in the final budget. So you won't be able to cut them after the project is begun. So that's the whole idea. And it's timing. If you don't get the work done now, before you know it, your end is here and nothing gets done. So we want to get a head start on these projects.
Good. Counselor McGonigal?
Thank you, and I'll let Joe leave. I have a question for the superintendent on
Okay.
the Arbutus stormwater one. So with the I&I that we've been struggling with for a number of years, this isn't the only area that is problematic. I know the 100 Houses is notorious for all areas having I&I, whether it's from drain pipes from properties going into storm drains, etc. I'm wondering in the future if there's a possible project that we could look at to divert stormwater from our sewer treatment plant, whether it be through marshy areas, etc. So one of the areas I'm looking at is adjacent to the current sewer lagoon. If there would be a way, and I know it would be expensive, but I'm just thinking outside the box, to try to keep within the permit of effluent discharge that sometimes we do exceed in heavy rain events. So a totally separate system for stormwater. We have implemented stormwater management in the new subdivision bylaw that tries to divert some of that I&I. But I think in the existing infrastructure, that also has to be addressed somehow, whether it be through marshy areas for filtration before it goes into the river. But by diverting that out of the sewer treatment plant, that would mitigate a lot of the inflow that we're seeing. It's just whether that's a possibility and how that would be incorporated into maybe a study or a consultant's report or yourself investigating the possibility of doing that.
Yeah, there's been some studies and investigation work done in the past where we do have cross tie-ins where people have tied their storm systems, meaning perimeter drains, gutter pipes, into our sanitary system, which is not supposed to be done. And a few years back, there was what they call a smoke test done, where they push smoke through the lines, and they can tell by smoke coming out of people's air vents and stuff in their homes which houses have done that. There is some identified in the 100 houses. It's a matter of implementing a program where we got to go after those people and have them disconnected. And unfortunately, in some of these places, we don't have proper storm systems either to say, tie into this. So, either it's run out onto the street, or some people have chose because their basements are flooding and that, so they tie into our sewer system, which they shouldn't be doing. It's something we have to work on. Yeah, if we can, to the other end, if we can try to get more storm water into wetlands is nice. It's not always possible, but some of our storm systems do need upgrading, and we're looking at some of that stuff too.
Great, thanks. And just to clarify, the storm system is separate than the sewer sanitary.
Correct.
Separate
Yeah.
piping.
Yes.
But in some areas it flows right into the river. In other areas it flows into the sewer lagoon. Is that correct?
No. None of our storm system flows into the sewer lagoon.
Just those that have been tied in certain areas?
Just the ones that are illegally tied into our sanitary system are flowing in there, yeah.
And all the other
through
stuff is through inflow and infiltration through
yeah,
the system.
leaky pipes is picking up stormwater and taking it into the lagoon. Yeah, those are the
Great.
things we're going to be working on.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So we had a motion by from Councillor Sandu and for the request of the $15,000 for engineering and design work. And we had a seconder. So now we call the question. All in favor? Passed. Thank you. So we have no new business tonight. And we have, do we have any notices of motion? No, seeing none, we are on to public relations items. I don't have the exact date in front of me, but I'm sure somebody will be able to tell me the date that Alistair McGregor is having I believe he calls it a town hall meeting to do with, is it called Medicaid? Farm to do with prescriptions?
Pharmacare, ma'am.
There we go. I watch too much American news.
Yeah.
So does
That's
anybody,
on January 21st
Okay.
at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Is that a Zoom meeting or?
It is Zoom or Facebook.
And is there going to be a link on our town website for people to be able to access that?
I have an email, Madam Chair. I could forward that to the CAO if he wishes to incorporate that into our social media.
Wonderful, thank you. I don't know whether the Mayor Day.
Yeah, just like to take this moment to encourage counselors and staff and anybody that feels that they can promote the filling out of the online survey for the active transportation study to try getting the word out a little more before the deadline of January 22nd. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, my people are moving around on my Hollywood squares here. I think maybe I'll pass this one to Mayor Day. I'll put you in the hot seat. But I think it's only appropriate that maybe you have a few words that you'd like to say about the Cowichan tribes in our recent news. I know that a lot of the leaders did get together, and I'm sure that you'd maybe like to say a few words.
Thank you very much. And I hope you all had a chance to view the video messages put out by all the elected officials that was put together so it could all be released at once. And I know a lot of other mayors and the chair of the CVRD board as well put out some great messages. And I think they overpowered that message of racism that was circulating on social media. And I'm very proud to, and I know that you folks were probably thinking the same, and I know you probably talked about it with your people that you come into contact with, how unacceptable this is, especially during these times. The issue that maybe caused the slight uproar was that the First Nations Health Authority, of course, reports differently than the Island Health. You know, because I think if maybe they both have a look at reporting in the same fashion, that it may not have sent that perceived message out off the top, because, you know, Island Health doesn't go pointing at Lake Cowichan, Duncan, or Ladysmith or anything like that. When they publish their numbers, they just say Island Health. So, but I also want to commend the Cowichan tribes for being very proactive and locking down, so to speak, in their community. I think they did the right thing, and it's proven to be very effective. And again, thank you to all the elected officials who chimed in and put down the racism that was occurring on social media. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else for public relations items? Okay, question period. So that would be back to our CAO.
And I suggest, Madam Chair, that we recess for 5 minutes and allow those who may have a question to send one by email.
Okay,
And if we can remind them of the email address.
it's general@lakecoucham.ca.
So
Okay, so-
perhaps if we wait till 6:58,
Sure.
Madam Chair.
5 minutes, no problem.
You leaving?
and want to be able to come and go as I please, do work and do other things, and only have to be involved when I have to be.
You know what, it's not, it's nice to have meetings without Zoom.
I got it. I have it
And then you
unmuted.
can say, well, that's what stupid was.
You need to be muted till we're ready.
No emails. I may report. I'm unmuted, yes.
You're not unmuted, Counselor Vomaka.
Councilor Womack is not.
That was good. I'm looking for adjournment, please. Moved by Mayor Day, seconded by Councillor Sandu, all in favor. And we'll take a short 10-minute break. Or should we be okay with 5?
2 minutes, fine. 2 minutes, fine.
Okay, we'll take 2 minutes
2 minutes.
and then we'll move on to our parks.
Okay, are we ready? Are we
Just watching
ready?
volleyball girls.
We are.
Is everybody back? Where's that Christine at? There she is. Are we ready? Okay, I'd like to call the Parks, Recreation and Culture Committee meeting of Tuesday, January 19th, 2021 to order at 7:01 p.m. And note that we are holding our virtual meeting on the unceded territory of the Subots First Nations. Introduction of any late items? Are there any?
None, Madam Chair.
Anybody else? Okay. Approval of the agenda as presented. Councillor Vomaka and Councillor Sandu. All those in favor? Thank you. Carried. Business arising and unfinished business. A is none. B, ongoing items still being addressed. Trail signage. I believe that's the TCT trail signage.
Correct.
Are we getting that put in fairly soon?
Hopefully very soon.
Very soon. Okay, I'll hold you to that. Thank you very
Okay.
much. Number 2 is the park signage. Do we have any update on the park signage that we asked about before?
I think we through Mr. Smith, we've been dealing with Zach Stokes on one of the signs. I'm not sure if we're dealing with any other signs. We've got the sign over on, yeah, just one sign currently.
I think we had talked about some of the other parks that don't have any signs at all. Is that
Okay.
not? Mayor Day, did you have something on that? No? Okay. Anybody else? Councillor Volmaka?
Was one of them the Ted Burns sign?
Yeah, that's the one that's being worked on.
The renewal of Ted Burns. Okay, I just thought we had talked about, I haven't got my notes from last month, but other parks that don't have any signage, but maybe that's something to talk about during budgets.
The correct, yeah.
Okay.
It's a budget item.
Okay, we'll leave that on there. Delegations and representations, none. Correspondence, we had a letter from Team BC regarding requests for financial support. Who wants to take care of that? Councillor McGonigal?
Receive and file, Madam Chair.
Okay, receive and file. Nobody else had anything on that? Okay. We don't need a motion on that. That's just a direction to staff to receive and file. Verbal comment from public on subsequent items on the agenda. Do we want to wait a couple of minutes to see if we get any?
Yeah, you can. I've got the emails here at my disposal and I'm looking at it. So far, none.
There's not a hockey game on tonight. Is that why nobody's? I think the Canucks lost last night. I don't know. I'm sure they did.
Yeah,
Well,
they did.
Yeah.
I think they would have written by now if they had concerns.
Okay, if we don't, because they can actually write in ahead of time, can they not?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Report, Superintendent Public Works Engineering Services, report for December 2020.
I'll let the superintendent take over at this point.
This is Parks.
Okay, so yeah, you guys have all the parks report. Any questions on it? It's not much there, so.
I actually have a question on something that's not on there. We've been talking, Councilor Womack and I've been talking about the town square. It needs a bit of maintenance, painting and some things being done to it. We need to make sure that's kept up well. It is our center of town and we want people to be able to use that. So is that something on your radar at all?
It has not been, but I will, I'll look into it.
Okay, and then we can talk about it during budget talks as well.
Yep.
Okay. Everything else looks pretty good. Anybody else have anything on parks? Councilor McGonigal?
If the town square is just a matter of sprucing up or fixing, that could go under maintenance and operational within Public Works as well. So depending on what the desire is in there,
Right.
is whether it would come forward to budget. If it's anything capital, that's when we would discuss it within the budgetary process. If it's a matter of sickens or staining, that would just be operational.
Well, I mentioned this last year, the back part of the stage, there's no railing or anything on there. And I worry about people backing up and falling off there. And nobody thought that was a problem, but I'm wondering if that's something we should think about, even putting something along there. I think they wanted to leave it open so you could see from both sides, but I still think you need something there, maybe something to look at. So maybe that's something we should talk about.
And if I may, Madam Chair, that would be capital. So
Yeah. Yeah. So if we can just keep that somewhere to talk about, and I'll keep it on my radar if you do as well. Okay, anything else on that? Thank you. Councilor Womack?
Yeah, I just brought it up to Councillor Austin was because some of the signage there, you can see that the stain is wearing away. And so that's just maybe regular maintenance just to be brought to the Public Works attention, just so that the wood doesn't start to deteriorate.
Madam Chair, is that Forest Workers Memorial that you're speaking of?
No, it's the park. It's the Trans-Canada Trail. I mean, the town square signage.
And where are the wooden signs there?
So when you're coming into the town square and you see the sign right there that says Stibosset and it's got the town logo, you can see the paint, the sickens, I guess it is. or the stain they used is peeling. So numerous places in there, it's starting to look weathered. And so it's just best to protect the wood.
So the
instead.
wooden framing around the,
Yeah.
okay.
But our superintendent, if he goes in there, will know what we're talking about.
And I think Zach told me last year with the other signage that we've talked about it, Sikkens is not the right thing to use now. It's called bear oil or something different that actually soaks in better and doesn't cause a problem. So that's something to remember as well. I've got a list of a couple of different things. So thank you, Jazz. I'm sure you'll look at that and see what's going on there.
We'll go have a look. If I can't figure it out, I'll stop by Lorna's store and grab her and she can show me.
Okay, she can start painting too. That won't cost
There
anything.
you go. Bring your brush.
Bring your brushes. Okay, thank you for that report. That's quite clear. I think nobody else had any questions on that. Okay. The Cowichan Lake Education Center, I don't see, is Dalton there or is he just, are we?
He is here. Yep. I'll,
Oh, there he is. There he
Hello,
is.
everybody.
Hello. Go ahead with your report.
Well, first of all, this is a nice treat because this superintendent doesn't talk nearly as much as the former superintendent or one of them, Nagy Risk.
Your best friend.
So there you go. So I'm glad that Nagy's not here tonight.
So you're going to take over, are you?
I'm going to take over, so I get a chance to say a few words. So I guess we're starting first with Lakeview Park, and again, you have the written report, and I'm open to questions and see what you've got that you want to discuss.
I think we're starting with the CLEC. The CLEC was first and then Lakeview.
Okay.
Please. Thank you.
Okay, well, the Education Center, of course, given the COVID situation, is pretty complicated because we cannot accept bookings. We have a lot of people that want bookings, and we have done some business that's, with the school district, of course, and we're limited to very special situations because of COVID. And I don't foresee that changing for all of 2021, quite frankly, unless this vaccine has big impact by October. So as you can see by my memo, I'm suggesting that we take a close look at strategy and take a look at what strategy we should adopt, and council wants to be involved, obviously. Look at long range plans and also look at some opportunities for getting some government grants perhaps, because I think, as probably most of us do, there will be some big opportunities given the COVID funding that will probably have to take place over the next few years for tourist-related facilities and facilities like ours and education facilities. So in a nutshell, that's what I see happening.
Okay, any questions from the rest of council? Councilor Vomaca?
It was more of a comment that before I even saw your report, and I was thinking about the CLEC Center and it not being able to take bookings, and I thought that would probably be a good time now to do much needed repairs and infrastructure. And voila, there it was on the report. So I was pretty happy to see that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor McGonigal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Smith. I know that the CLEC Center was utilized as a quarantine for international students prior to starting their year within our system. Is that going to be utilized again should they return to their home country and upon return to our area for a subsequent quarantine?
Okay, good question. Basically, the Education Center, that's what I'm referring to when I'm talking about the school district. They're working with very, very strict protocols for isolation and quarantining when their students come from different parts to be involved with our school district 79. So they are working closely with federal, provincial governments, local health, and we follow the same guidelines with our protocols. So that's a very different and interesting niche that we have been involved with, and we think it's a good opportunity to continue with that, actually, particularly given the protocols are so tough. Temperatures are taken. People, when they come to the center like that, they never leave the center. They have to stay there for 14 days. They're within 3 hours of the airport and they come to the center and that's it. It's like lockdown.
Wow, that's good. Anything else on that?
No, thank you. And if I spoke out of turn, I apologize, but
Yep.
I know that was being utilized for that, and hopefully it can continue should the pandemic continue.
I think on the news tonight, they talked about some international students coming in, so I think they're still coming and going, but not sure where. Thank you for your report. Do we want to move on to the next Lakeview?
Okay, so Lakeview Park is an interesting one. Last year, when the management team got together and COVID was first starting, we knew that, well, we didn't know, but we weren't sure what was going to happen with the season. And as we progressed into the summer, as I've written in my report, we had a very short season, really, compared to other years where it was really operating 6 months. This time it was just a little over 2 months. And we did quite well. We were able to hire young people. Our protocols were good. All of the safety precautions that we took paid off. And so same thing. I think we'd like to try that again, but really given the COVID figures that we're looking at, unless the vaccine has huge positive impact by the summer, I think we'll still be able to do it, but not sure. We'll have to see what restrictions we have. So far, we'd like to move forward.
Right. Okay. Any questions on that? That's a good report. I know people were happy to camp there and happy with what was going on with garbage and maintenance and different things like that. Was there anything else from anyone else? Councillor Bomaka?
I was just gonna make a comment that even when you weren't taking reservations, there were still a lot of people going down there.
Yeah.
And I think this will be the same. You're still going to see a lot of local people going down to use the beaches. And so I'm sure you have some sort of program in place or for that if that does happen.
Well, we do. And in fact, that's a good point. We have a lot of people that are local that use that beach every day in the summertime. So, it has to be maintained. It has to be kept up. Garbage has to be collected. But still, with the off-season visitors, it doesn't demand that much. It's a camping situation that demands a lot of time. So we probably will only look at hiring summer students for mid-June through mid-September again. That's so far objective, but we meet monthly in our management team and we look at those strategies, and I think that's probably the best way we look at it right now. Just take one step at a time. We still are dealing with a crisis. The only other thing I want to mention is I've addressed the situation where we talk about maintenance being required at Lakeview Park and the waterfront walkway. I know that's a big concern for local people too, because they use it a lot. We did some work last year on it, and then we had to do more, but we were waiting for the high water so the contractor could demolish the old section that was washed up. And so in the future, though, we do have to have a good plan looking forward. And I think the council is already looking at strategic plans for the whole community. And I think that the Lakeview Park and the Education Center, it's important for council to have input.
Right. Thank you. Thank you on that. Anything else? Thank you for those reports. Very good reports. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Director of Finance Capital Budget 2021 for Parks.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So the budget discussions to date are shown for the Parks capital budget there. We're looking at Centennial Park upgrades, but those will only happen if we're successful in the grant application. There's improvement to Duck Pond, the footbridge, Kasapi Park, at the Marina Park, the boat launch. They're going to do the viewing area or lookout at River's Edge Memorial Garden. Satlam Park, there's some painting left to complete that capital project. The info center roof is being rebudgeted for $10,000 there. And the Stone Park improvements we've already talked about earlier in the meeting. So total budget there is 483,500 with grant funding of 207,500 if we are successful. So the net budget is 276,000. The Lakeview Park capital budget is there. Repairs to the floating walkway for 10,000. The golf cart purchase, which didn't happen last year and may or may not happen this year, but if they're operating, they might need that. And resurfacing the campsites with gravel and sand for 10,000. The Cowichan Lake Education Center, we're also looking at 5,000 for the hot water on demand. We're rebudgeting the carpeting and flooring from last year. There's additional work to be done at the water system. The exterior painting is rebudgeted from 2020 as well, and $20,000 for roof renovations. So the total budget there being 38,000.
Any questions on that from the Councillor McGonigal?
Well, thank you for that. This would conclude the capital budgets from all departments, I think.
Other than water and sewer, yes.
Right, so we've addressed administration, capital projects, public works. And once we have the water and sewer, that will give us an indication of what impacts we will be placing upon our residents this year. So once those are finalized, I think it's important that we reconvene into budget discussions to see how comfortable we are with those impacts, whether they be percentage wise, and taking into account that the monetary value is what I look at, what the increase is going to be dollar wise instead of percentage wise. So once those come, I think it's important that we sit down and rationalize the capital input that has been placed before us and see what we're comfortable with. I just wanted to ensure that those ones coming forward are still open for discussion, aside from the ones that have been implemented tonight, those two projects which have been finalized prior to budget approval. But any other ones moving forward that we're not comfortable with the increases can be either trimmed or at the discretion of this body, canceled. As we did last year, we postponed a couple, which I see have come back. Given that we're still in a pandemic situation, I think we have to be cognizant of the impacts that these decisions will make on our residents.
Thank you. Councillor McGonigal. Mayor Day?
Yes, I had a question about the grant application that's pending, and I'm assuming that was for Centennial Park upgrades. Have we had any word back at all on that?
Nothing yet.
And has it gone past the deadline indicated in the application process for hearing back?
It's still in the system.
It's still in the system.
Still in the system as pending. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Vomaka, did you have something?
Yes, I was going to ask, are we going to be applying for any JCP grants?
I'm looking at Mr. Smith right now.
We're going to start looking at all kinds of grants, everything.
Yeah, so apparently he is looking at them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that report. That's a good report. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yes, Mayor Day?
So just a question to staff then, where we'll be looking at water and sewer at the next finance and admin meeting. Is that when the plan is for that?
It's up to council.
Okay. Well, then how does staff feel? How quickly are we able to move along in this process? Are the numbers ready for discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Fernandez is saying after finance would be a good time. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. It couldn't be during finance, could it?
It could be during finance, yeah.
So that's 2 weeks away. So that's not too long of a wait to have a look at those numbers, and then We may or may not have to look at having a special meeting to discuss the entire budget, but we'll keep in touch with each other and staff and find out what the best route forward is, because we don't want to shortcut any discussions when we look at our budget and the final dollar and percentage amounts that we're looking to putting forward to the taxpayers.
Right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on that? We're all done with that. Thank you so much. We're going to move now to new business. I don't see anything there. Notices of motion. Any notices of motion? Okay, public relations items. Councillor McGonigal. I
Thank
need a
you.
drink. I can't talk. Sorry.
Thank you.
Water.
We've seen in the news a number of elected officials at various levels not adhering to stay at home and shelter in place. And I must admit over the holidays that I too contravened the shelter in place.
Oh my God.
I moved from the kitchen to the living room, and I just want to apologize for doing that here publicly tonight. From now on, I will stay on the couch and I will not move. I promise you that. But seriously, I want to thank staff for all their hard work on putting this capital budget together. It's a difficult time during a difficult time to try to implement the things that people want without hurting them financially. So thank you very much, staff.
Right. I'd like to say as well, thank you to staff for they've worked through the whole thing and kept everything going and done a great job. Do we want to wait a couple of minutes for questions? Yes.
That's general@lakecouchin.ca.
And while we're waiting, I just want to mention we had Well Baby Clinic today, and we're getting quite a few babies, quite a few young babies. I thought they said that we had 20 in December, but I could have that wrong. It might have been 9. Sometimes they, so we're having babies, and people are staying here and living here, and everybody's happy, and they're all wearing masks and doing a great job. Even the little kids, and they're just fine. They're just fine with it. So it's really enjoyable working there. It's quite a lot of fun. Yes, did you have something, Councillor Vomacker, or were you just waving?
I was going to say, so this must be the first wave of the COVID isolation babies now that are appearing.
Yeah, usually, yeah, because it is 9 months after March, so December. I think we had some 2 months old in today. There are older ones as well, but yeah.
Good.
It's not so much isolation, it's staying in, right? And locking the doors. And I've heard some husbands have started cooking too, by the way. Is Jazz still there? He needs to learn how to cook. So does Gordon, but that's not working out too well.
My wife's doing a fine job. I don't need to.
I heard that. Okay. Yeah, that's what Gordon says too.
And when it's my turn to cook, I utilize our local culinary facilities in town.
Takeout, right, takeout night, yeah. And just on that note, it's Gordon's birthday on Thursday. We're going to go out to Yubo and try the bar and grill out there, apparently. So to see how that works, they allow you to eat in, self-distancing. So that'll be our first outing for quite a long time. And we'll be shopping locally, so that's good. Did we do our 3 minutes, or how's it going? For the questions?
There is nothing.
Nothing. Okay, so let's, I guess it's time to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Vomacker, Councillor McGonigal, all in favor? Thank you very much. Over and out.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you
Night.
all.
Have a great,
Everybody?
Talk to you soon.
yeah, see you
Hey.
soon.
And meeting